But to introduce myself, pretty simple. I'm here to help you out with your landing pages. Sounds cool, right? The point is that I have been part of Velvet's team for the past 3 years now, and my job, my daily job, is to run digital projects, be it digital products, web applications, mobile apps, e-stores, or just simply put websites. And in terms of my knowledge and my value proposition for you today, I would love to kind of open this topic, this subject, in a way that you would kind of understand the essential components of websites. And I'm pretty sure that most of you, as there are a lot of you, you have different kinds of backgrounds, you have different kind of knowledge base around websites and how to build them, and that's fine. Hopefully, whatever I'm going to talk to you about today, or the topics that I'm going to cover today, they are useful to you, and you can add them to your existing web pages or build something from scratch. So hopefully this makes sense to you. Are we ready to go ahead? Give me some reactions. So oh, yeah, nice. Good.
Just a second. I tried to put you on the web and tag Velvet, but it's a little bit tricky.
I can wait for some time.
Yes, thank you. Just wait for just a second. Oh. And you can go.
Cool. So on today's menu, what we have here is the introduction part. I'm gonna guide you through the introductory part and explain like why you should even have a web page, or turn your attention to think why you should have one. Secondly, we're gonna cover the components of a website or a landing page. And last but not least, make some specific conclusions as well to keep in mind while you are developing one for yourself. So pretty simple, but let's get to it. So first of all, as a team, as a group of people, I think it's essential to think really hard, like why do you need a website? And to kind of give you some hints, there can be several reasons to have a website or a landing page. First of all, the most simple way, or how to explain a website for yourself, is pretty easy. Like it's a tool for you to communicate about your service, people or the team, about your products, and it's just an info web in that case, in that specific case. But on the other hand, it can turn into a very strategic tool, for example, to gather or drive leads to your website. And this is a whole new level, just to keep in mind. But at this point, as far as I'm concerned, like you are all participating in Prototron's like accelerator. And the point here for you is to understand, like, as well, the same question, you have to ask the same question from yourself, like, okay, if we're going to do it, for what we are going to do it? Is it going to be something that we're only going to do to, get to the second stage in Prototron's accelerator, or this is something totally different, or even or maybe it has a more significant reason for us to build one? So always start with why, right? And from there on, like if you already know your why, the rest of the elements, the rest of the process becomes pretty much technical. And if you know, for what specific reasons you will and you shall build a website, it's just a matter of recruiting the right people, building meaningful partnerships with different service providers, or someone who can really build a website for you. That's how easy it is. But when it comes to technical stuff, it can also turn into a mess. So we'll get there in a second. But just a quick story to kind of recap the why question. For example, if you look Fractory as a company, as a startup, they launched their services back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason why they turned to us, or why they actually turned to building a new website for them, it was all about building a right tool that also communicates the right message, but which also becomes a really good strategic marketing channel for them. So therefore, in this case, you can already see a much more like a technical strategic tool here. But in your case, in your position, I'm guessing that it's like we don't have to think about building a Nike or Apple website at the moment. When we think about Fractory, for example, their first prototype of their landing page was pretty, let's say, old school as well, but it worked. It did the job. And the same applies to GuestJoy. And another reason, by the way, with GuestJoy, it's pretty cool. The fact is that when they started rebuilding their brand, their web pages, their digital sphere of things, they already had the trust from the investors. So it was a strategical decision to build a real brand that represents them in the right way. And also, what kind of turned or caught my attention was the fact that for GuestJoy it was really also an emotional side of things. So they really felt at the time that they want this emotional boost to better structure, to better identify themselves as a service provider. All right, so far so good. Okay, I think we can move on. So easy subheading. What are the components of a web page? The truth is that for me, it's really easy to tell them like in this way, just to kind of pinpoint them out and say that there you have it, right? But it's easier said than done, because every single component what you can read from this page means hard thinking, good project management, a great vision to start with, and it all has to come together as one. These components cannot distinguish from each other, and therefore they have to speak the same language. But shortly said, text and typography, pretty common sense thing. Images or illustrations, colors, animations, interactions, and compared to the last time I spoke here, I also wanted to bring in the accessibility point. But hopefully these components make sense to you as well at the moment. But let's dig in. So my favorite part, from the practical side of things, when people or companies turn to Velvet, for instance, and they ask like, okay, guys, we need a new website. How should we start? Well, the most practical and from my own experience, the most useful way to start is to figure out the sitemap or the structure of your website. And to do so, you really have to figure out like what is the communication you want to use on your website. That said, I really recommend really thinking through the main messages and also the way you speak out these messages. Like, for example, last year, or not last year, but from the last batch, there's a cool company called 10 Lines, which is building an autonomous site or like street coloring robot, basically. And we had a really good chat about like how to kind of how to kind of think through like what do you actually want to say. And I think there isn't this kind of secret recipe how to become really efficient in terms of figuring out like what you want to say. My message to you is that it demands real work and effort from you guys. So figuring out exactly like what is the navigation on your website, what are the main elements and key messages on your website, what are the features, benefits, stuff like that, what are the different propositions that we're making to the users or to the visitors of our website. And this is really, really important because like this will be the main communication platform either way, for not just for you, but also for your target groups and stakeholders, right? So for example, if we think about a company called MindTitan, and they are a consultancy plus development agency, and they build machine learning solutions for different established companies, also for startups, etc. The point is that you can already see the key message, which is leap into the future, right? But that doesn't tell you anything like too much like tangible. Okay, what does that mean? But it's all connected to the main body part. And if you scroll it through, you will see that the whole things come together in a beautifully and elegant, in an elegant way. So that's about that. Let's move forward. When we think about images, photos, and illustrations, I'm not recommending to go too crazy with these things because yes, for sure, it gives you a chance to shine and bring out the best of your company or your team. But at the same time, you really need to understand like where do we put our focus? Is it on text or is it on the visual side of things? And furthermore, like, does it just make sense to produce custom photos and illustrations, or in the starting point, as most of you probably are, just download the stuff online? And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's totally fine to go ahead and use shutterstock.com or stuck.adobe.com or whatever. There's a bunch of platforms all around Google. Just go ahead and check them out. But the message here, what I really want to say to you is that when you have already thought through your texts and the content of your website, it also has to work with the visual materials, just like images and photos. And for example, one startup called Celos is a really cool web page project, because like we made a hybrid solution of having a great content, obviously, on the web page, but we also created a set of illustrations from scratch. I'm not saying, like, by the way, like you can also download and purchase illustrations online as a stock material. So this is really, really handy. And if needed, I can send you some platform links as well, so you can take a look. But yeah, in this case, we used both custom-made illustrations and photos. So it all came down to having this kind of a hybrid, holistic design. here's another example. Now, most common question, or actually I'm not sure if it's the most common question, but it's one of the common questions that comes to the table, is that, okay guys, like, is color really that important? The real answer is that no, it's not. But at the same time, you have to realize that the visuals and the branding language you communicate on your web page can potentially distinguish yourself, your team, from the other players on the market. And obviously it tells a lot about yourself as well. So if possible, use it. Don't go too crazy, but play around with it and see how it comes together. Yeah, and just to give you a quick sneak peek to Estonian statistics, I'm not sure if you see these pictures like in the most sharp way, but the point here is that we built the whole design system for these guys, so they can use different components that is necessary at certain times. They can easily implement and use. So let's move ahead. Animations. What I've seen really often, especially with the startups and their web pages, is that they use animations, and it actually makes sense. And it makes sense from the perspective that you can, efficiently explain what your product or service does. And just to illustrate this example or kind of a way how to use animations is again Fractory. So the point here is that with this animation, we're trying to speak out that Fractory is capable of understanding the technical drawings and can easily be communicated to different service providers all around the place. And finally, it comes together with the shipping solution. So the products that were ordered, from the platform are easily delivered to the end customer. So that's how it is. Let's move forward. Interactions. So basically what I mean by interactions, it's in essence, every button and form on your website. And why I especially want to highlight this or emphasize this is the fact that by using different interactions, you can guide and shape and share like different knowledge to your visitors or to your potential clients. So the message here is that you have to be really, really precise about what you're asking your visitors to do. So for example, if you're implementing different call to action sites or call to actions, that's totally fine. But the point is that since we are living in a world of enormous noise, the attention span is so freaking small. We have to make sure that the information is really clear, what we are trying to tell to the user or to the visitor of a web page, and exactly like what is the next step and how we foresee the whole user flow on the web page. So for example, Whom, which is one of the, let's say, hottest sauna industry, by the way, is one of the hottest topics for investors at the moment. For example, for Whom, we did a research which lasted almost 4 months, if I remember it correctly. We did some qualitative and quantitative research to understand who are the users for this kind of a website. What are their needs? What are they even looking for on a web page like this? And what we did in the end is that we defined different user groups. We analyzed the obstacles that were currently ongoing. And with this web page, we tried to make sure that all of these obstacles are dealt with. So in the end, we can say that if you carefully look when you carefully scroll through this website, you should be able to see hints for different types of users, be it the end customer, reseller, or let's say even an interior architect. So these were the kind of main user groups. And now finally, when you go ahead and you have kind of, you are pretty sure that, okay, we have covered the content, we have worked on the visual materials, we have even figured out the way to implement an animation. You cannot forget the accessibility aspect. You really want your website visitors to access your services any place, anytime. And it makes sense if you look at it, or look at this point from the business perspective, because less restrictions and better accessibility raises the probability of retaining the customer. So we just had a dialogue with one of my colleagues, and when you think about it, like the service quality, or the let's take whoever more, let's take Telia, for example. If the mobile services are not working perfectly at a specific time in a specific place, let's say you're taking a train somewhere and the service is not there, you really have to think through, like, how can you make sure that the accessibility is still covered? And yeah, I think this is something that we tend to forget pretty often, especially when we think that we already kind of know what we're doing. But as far as I'm concerned, the mobile accessibility is becoming like more essential than ever, and most of the companies that actually have a specific type of interactions on their web page, they already expect you to work with mobile first principles. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, time flies. So already 23 minutes gone. But anyway, to kind of conclude my thinking here, I think that there are specific things to kind of digest. So, quick reminder, if you know that you're going to build a website, figure out why you are doing it, and always have this clear vision where this web page is moving in the longer run as well, not just to kind of get it done and think that that's it. Go ahead and work on your content, and why not build even a sitemap if you are building even a more complicated web page. And I'm pretty sure that we are all, we can all manage different tools like draw.io or miro.com. These are all the tools that can help you with the sitemap building. And as you can see, it gives you a pretty clear understanding, like how is your website built up, from the main navigation all the way to different content pages. Again, be very clear about what you want your users to do on your web page. And that said, I think it's okay to make mistakes, because how often do you do websites? I don't think you're going to do them every day. but the focus should be on the learning and doing your best at any time. And if you, as a person, as a team, currently cannot do it, hire someone or partner up with someone to help you out. And what I'm really looking for, especially from you guys as well, don't just settle with mediocrity. So as far as I'm concerned, push for greater results if possible. And keep in mind that your website tells a lot about yourself. Your own commitment, your level of quality and mindset. So whenever I land on your web pages, my hope is that I'm seeing something that really communicates to me something about you in a way that I feel like, oh yeah, that's nice, that's interesting, something that caught my eye. But in the end, remember that nothing works 100% of all of the time, but we should, and you should. And just as a reference, there's not too many things we can control in our life. And I think the effort and the attitude we thrive with on a daily basis is something that we can control. So thank you and good luck.